Fair enough. All right. Well, we got a quorum to play. Let's go ahead and get started. So, I think Asgol, you wanted to purchase influence with a group. I didn't quite catch what you were looking for, basically, out of meetup chat.
I think he's muted.
Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Did I do something wrong? How do I... How do I turn off this? Go back.
Okay. Let's see. All right, someone fill me in on where we were last time. I think you were hunting the Rift Kraken, but that's my recollection at least.
Yeah, we're on the boat on the way to the Rift Kraken. So we have the explosives and we have the monster hunters taking us over there. And I was going to cast underwater breathing ritually on the way over there. Anything else that you guys wanted to cast on the way over? Will any of your new sonar gear or will any of that be useful?
Well, Asgol's mapping gear can be used, essentially, so... Well, Asgol's mapping gear basically is like, what is it? Ground penetrating, ground penetrating radar, ground penetrating sonar, so up to a reasonable distance, essentially, you can basically see through walls with it. So...
But the range on it wouldn't be good enough for it to be useful.
No, it's not like basically you can ping the whole rift with it. Essentially, it's not that type of sonar. It's mainly meant for like relatively short range, like probably less than 60 feet. So, basically, what is it? Kirshan has a battle food poisoning, basically, and is staying on the ship.
What?
I'm saying Ryan isn't here with Stormcrow, so Kirshan has a battle food poisoning and is staying on the ship.
He's having some problems with his laptop, but he'll be later. So undoubtedly he'll get it all pitched over the side and join us en route, right?
All right, fair enough. Okay, so when we last left our space heroes, you are on the water planet of Uranus. There's a large bounty on a loose critter out in the deep rifts. Just on the edges of civilization here on Uranus. There's a Marianas Trench-like deep water canyon that runs, that is rich, that continually sort of spews up valuable minerals that the miners mine off the edge of the rift. Unfortunately, there's all sorts of critters that pretty much on a yearly basis or bi-yearly basis, like, crawl up out of the rift and need to be dealt with. And this is one of those times. There's a Rift Kraken, which the information on what exactly a Rift Kraken is sort of spotty, but it's sort of like this giant octopus thing that is highly electrified and generally can lay waste to a whole mining operation within like 1 or 2 hours. So, i.e., can destroy a small town, sort of deal. It has multiple limbs. It can shoot lightning. You're beginning to get the feeling that basically most large things on this planet can shoot lightning underwater, since the Leviathan the adult Leviathan that you encountered likewise was electrified. So, apparently large predators basically are like electric eels. They basically just shock the water around them and they collect up all the stunned prey afterwards. So this Rift Kraken is apparently no different. It's already destroyed one mining colony at this point, and you're sort of headed off to the next closest mining colony to see if you can track it down from there. You're on the Monster Hunter Guild's ship at this point. The A huge bluish sea ogre named Drogo is the head of the Hunters Guild, and he's the captain of the ship, which effectively looks like a large sort of rectangular box of a cargo vessel that has been converted for underwater usage as a sub. You're in the main cargo bay at this point, which has been flooded to make it comfortable for the most of the crew. And it did have some air in it at the beginning to make it comfortable for you, but considering 80% of the crew must breathe underwater, essentially they're aquatic. It's like your comfort basically pales in comparison to basically the greater majority of the crew. So they flood the bay eventually, and you're all having to use water breathing or rebreather gear to basically scoot around the ship. You arrive at the edge of the rift. You can see like large sort of volcanic fumaroles spewing up grayish ash and various other chemicals up into the water. The water temperature reading sort of indicates that the water around here is quite hot. Where you're looking at, in some places, if you're looking at the thermal cameras, some of it is like would scald you pretty bad. You're probably looking like at superheated water that could basically boil the flesh off your bones. And other places, it's like almost Arctic level freezing, essentially like 10 degrees below 0 Celsius. So the general water down here is pretty cold because you are way, way below the surface. You're easily, where the trench starts is easily like 400, 500 feet below the water. The crew of the Monster Hunter start deploying out at this point. Drogo goes, "All right, well, we're gonna set up sensor gear around here and see if we can't locate it at this point." The Rift Kraken has a pretty strong electrical signature. If it's within roughly about a kilometer or two of here, we'll be able to pick it up. Other than that, we'll set up long-range sonar and see if we can hear it before it comes. I think if we let it get all the way to this, facility, we're looking at probably some major damage to this mining facility, which is sort of like this large bubble-like dome under which you can see a lot of those exo mining craft. Spider-like exo mining rigs that sort of stand maybe about 3 stories tall, working under. I prefer we engage it in the rift, so I'm going to send you guys out to scout. If you feel confident in engaging and take it down, basically in the rift, do so. Otherwise, basically, try to lure it back here, and we'll have explosives and other traps ready for it to soften it up. And we've prepped your mining explosives and put it into an autonomous sled. It'll follow you behind you, and here's a remote control if you need to remote control it someplace. Questions, comments?
Will the remote control also work to activate the detonators?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
So we rigged everything up at this point. You may want to double check it just because it's always a good idea to double check the gear. And we'll let's go ahead and get this operation rolling. Okay. He basically goes to a ready room, and everybody gathers in there. And he shows this big holo of the rift itself. There's like 2 or 3 very large caves, just maybe about 200, 300 feet down below the rim of the rift that the Kraken probably could make a home in and could lair in, or could just simply live much, much further down the rift. But it's like it's worth he's pointing these out basically to you as the scouting team that you probably want to check these out. He also recommends staying away from the rift walls if at all possible. There are very large eels that sort of make their home in a lot of these sort of empty volcanic fumaroles that might nab you. More annoying than anything else, but like could damage equipment.
Good advice. I mean, it is going to double check all of the electronics.
Alright, so roll Arcana 3 times. DC 12.
Okie dokie.
You don't roll once.
Okay, the first one is an 11, and the next one is a 21, and the next one is a 28. Do I need to bump that 11? What are we?
Yes, go ahead and bump the 11.
Okay, so that'll take it up to
16,
21, and 28.
Okay, so you had 12 was your DC, so... Okay, so you've checked the explosives, you checked the remote detonator, checked the safeties on the remote detonator, and you checked the remote controls by piloting it around the cargo bay a little bit. Everything seems to be in order. This thing does not move very fast, by the way, but, so... If you need it to get someplace fast, you may need someone to, like, carry it over there. You have what are equivalent of your underwater versions of your hover bikes at the moment, as you have mini subs, personal mini subs that you've all been issued for your personal use while on this expedition by the Hunters Guild. He's like, Drogo says, these get blown up, don't worry about it. We lose a ton of these things basically every time we go on a hunt anyways. So, they're not the greatest, but they're serviceable and reliable.
Well, thank you for the subs. Should we head out?
Good luck. Good hunting.
So Hadel.
All right, you zoom out into the water. There's those of you with environmentally sealed armor don't really feel the cold. Those of you without, it's like it is bitterly cold. The wetsuits you have on will probably stave off the cold for about an hour, but beyond that, essentially, you're probably going to need to basically take frequent trips basically back to the mini sub to basically warm up. Okay.
Hey, did you have something?
I was just going to prompt the story by getting in the sub and taking off.
Okay. You get in the sub, you take off. There's 3 major caves to go check out at this point. One of them is on the far side of the rift. It has a sort of large overhang. Thermal readings indicate there's numerous life signs inside. The 2 on this side of the rift don't have as many thermal readings. One of them almost seems to be completely devoid of any thermal readings, and then the 3rd one basically has some mix between the 2, essentially, but does seem to have sort of initial sonar pings indicate it does lead deeper into the rift wall. So the other 2 seem to be relatively shallow caverns, though very large, that do not seem to penetrate the walls of the rift. So,
well, let's head for the most likely suspect, the deep cave.
Okay. You head to the deepest cave with actual life signs. Oh, you're talking about the one that goes back into the wall. Okay.
Yes.
That's sort of a mixed level of life signs you're getting as far as thermal readings. You dive down into the rift. There's some sort of horrible creaking coming from your equipment as you head deeper and deeper into the water. And then you arrive at rift number 2. Rift cave number 2, there's a couple giant albino shrimp. They're roughly about 6-7 feet, snout to tail, sort of scooting around in there. They don't look particularly aggressive, so i.e. they don't have giant saw teeth or like pincers that could giant pincers that could snip something off. It might hurt a bit if you got pinched by one, but that's about it. And so there's sort of like 7, 8 giant shrimp-like creatures scooting around inside the entrance, just inside the entrance, as they're sort of pale white and pink shells sort of reflect the sublights as you the lights up from the lights of the sub as you approach. You can see the cave itself ahead is easily about 80 feet across, about 100 feet tall, so sort of like oblong shaped, and you can see like a good amount of sort of volcanic fumarole ash and chemicals basically spilling, and gases spilling out into the water around here, around the edges of this particularly large cave, which obscures the inner depths of the cave, so you can't quite see what else is on beyond there. Okay, so what are you guys doing from here? Poke the shrimp, head on in, do some scanning, because you do have basically ground penetrating sonar gear at this point, strangely enough. So.
Send in the sonar.
Send in the sonar?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. You send in the sonar unit on the repulsor sled with the bombs, and you get a clear echo ping of the whole. Even though it's basically mainly blotted out by volcanic glass, this does not stop the sonar at all, as it picks up a round, sort of shallow cave. It's only about 40 or so feet deep before it sort of terminates in more than a dozen individual, like 10 to 20 foot passageways. You're not entirely sure, it being an octopus type creature, whether or not it can actually squish itself down into smaller passageways or not. But people can roll a nature check to basically whether or not that seems reasonable.
Hey, I'm good at those.
I'll roll one, and that is an 11, which is not impressive.
Mina is going, could be. It's like
15.
15. So, Tirshan is looking over the sonar imagery. It's like, he's noticing that there's the edges of like 2 or 3 of the caves seem to be significantly degraded, as if something like snapped off the edges of the cave mouth. Like, if something large like a giant octopus squished its way through there, my bet would be on any of those 3 caves right there. We're go up close and personal. We probably can see which one has been down recently. If the Rift Kraken has been this way. Okay, and one last nature check for the shrimp, just in case someone could actually identify them as dangerous creatures or not.
You want to try?
Oh, I got a 10 that time.
No idea. Never seen this species before.
Yep.
Never seen it in a book or studied it.
I'm allergic to shellfish anyway.
And the monster hunter database, like that is on your subs, doesn't identify it immediately either as a threatening species. All right, are you guys doing anything to drive these shrimp off, or are you just gonna swim? Or just pilot the subs in?
Should I have my fish look at it?
Well, do you want to zoom your fish over to one of the shrimp and try to get it to drive the shrimp away?
Yeah, I'm gonna go tell my fish to, go over and like bark at him and hassle him.
Okay.
Do my little mechanical things work underwater? Could I send them over to make funky noises at him?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so you set up you shoot out a couple like sort of dumb drones that just make loud noises. Shoot like 3 or 4 of them out into the water, and then Asgol sends his giant gar out there, and it zooms after one of the shrimps and snaps. Literally zooms up to it and like snaps its head off and just starts eating it there. It's like. The other shrimp peel away quickly and begin to scatter away from the entryway. So it looks like they were mostly harmless.
Well, that was effective.
Right. You're not getting any other heat. Your subs are not indicating any heat signatures inside the entryway at this point. So.
Did you just say subs won't fit through the entryway?
Oh, the subs will fit through the entryway just fine. This is like 100 feet across. So, and then they'll even fit into the smaller passageways, which are like 15 to 20 feet across. So, your subs are only maybe about 7-8 feet across max.
How fast are the subs?
The subs are probably can take you around at probably about 10 to 12 knots. So, way faster than swimming, but not by much.
Okay. So I guess we'll enter the most likely cave.
Okay. You enter in the... you deploy the robot arms on the subs, and you're looking at... you're sort of picking at... Tirshan is sort of picking at the walls of some of the 3 possible caves that a giant squid creature might squeeze itself down. It's like... One of them has some obvious, like, bluish goo all around its edge, as if some creature here sort of sloughed off a little bit of its skin. And then the other 2, while they seem degraded, don't have blue goo around them. So, let's see here. The 2 that do not have blue goo, to them seem to be leading sort of down and away, so sort of down, further down into the rift, and then the one with the blue goo on it seems to be sort of parallel to the level of the rift you're at now. So it basically sort of remains at the same depth as you scan it with the sonar equipment. Though the one with the blue goo does seem to be blocked up by something probably about 60 feet in.
And can we tell how deep it runs?
No, because it's blocked up by something, essentially. The sonar does not seem to penetrate whatever it is. It might be spongy. It might be organic or spongy and is absorbing the sonar signature.
Well, that's a pretty good sign.
Scan it?
Say again?
I'm going to swim a little bit up there and scan it with the composition.
I'm thinking maybe we send some of my little droney things in there first and see if they disappear horribly or not.
Okay. You set your little droney things in there. There's well, they don't actually report back. They just sort of do dumb stuff. Essentially, they just go where you tell them to go. They don't have any reporting capability. You'd actually have to send Adam Savage in there if you actually wanted reporting capability back.
Yeah, I thought I'd send them first and see if they, like, maybe I could make them go and come back, right? And if they didn't,
okay. Well, they're sort of dumb, so they just sort of go out, straight out, and come straight back. So,
well, we can see if we can detect them with the sonar, right? Because then we'll have something.
Okay, so yeah, you detect these things. You detect your hard metallic objects with the sonar just fine. Whatever is blocking up the passageway, though, is just like it must be soft and it's absorbing the sonar signature, because it's like while the sonar equipment is indicating a blockage, it basically can't scan beyond the blockage.
And you said that's about 60 feet in?
That's about 60 feet in.
Okay.
Okay, everybody roll me a D8 while you're in the entryway to the sea cave.
I got a 6.
Okay. Okay. Nothing particularly happens while you're exploring that one sort of cave with blue goo around the entryway. Okay. Let's see here. So Mina is effectively an engineer. Tirshan's a scientist. Are you going to basically scrape up some of the goo and try to figure out what it is, or just leave it be?
The goo that's on the blockage?
Edge of the passageway that you're in front of at the moment.
Definitely take a sample.
Okay, you scrape up some of it, it is definitely not flesh. It is definitely some sort of secretion. It is even in the water is not getting diluted by the water, so it's like sort of a sticky blue slime. There's as you touch it, basically you take like 1 point of electrical damage or your sub takes 1 point of electrical damage as you scrape it up. As there's a slight spark as you scrape some of it up. So as you, if you want to use the robot arms of the sub, there's some arcing when you basically touch it.
That's another good sign that this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, either that or something similar, because it...
Okay. So the sonar, you basically pilot the drone back, and you have the information you have at this point. So further information is going to have to be determined by sending people or something that can actually intelligently survey basically what the blockage in the passageway is.
So I would suggest that we all get ready to run away back to the big ship, and Hate will get out and fire his web laser, energy web laser, at the blockage in the tunnel.
Okay.
And see if it reacts and comes chasing everybody. Okay.
You take your shots. Nothing comes barreling out of the tunnel. In fact, the sonar pings at this point are indicating further passageway beyond, as whatever the E-web gun basically definitely puts some solid amount of holes in it. Let's see here. Did you only have a quarter pack charge left on this thing, or have you bought a recharge for it?
I've had it fully recharged.
You've had it fully. Okay, so you dump a quarter of the charge pack into this endeavor to give it a good amount of blast. Basically, as he shoots for a good 10 seconds straight into the passageway of high energy rapid fire blaster shots. You seem to have cleared away some of the surrounding fog down the passageway, as you can actually see clearly down the passageway. And you can see some... and the sonar sort of indicates that whatever was blocking up the passageway is in tatters at this point, and is sort of floating around the passageway in chunks at this point.
So I'm willing to move further down the passage to see what we can see past the blockage.
Okay. So you go further down, the water clears up significantly, and there are just these large floating chunks of blue jelly, that have been Swiss cheesed, and this looks like as far as you probably want to bring the mini subs, because you will start sucking up all sorts of this wacky blue debris into the intakes. So which does not seem to like a good idea.
Especially if it's electrical.
Yes.
Okay, I guess.
So it seems to be just like a thicker, some mucus plug or some sort of organic algae goo that had been sort of stretched over the passageway to seal it off.
I guess we swim from here.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Lovely. I'm on my Xbox, believe it or not.
Okay, well, that works.
So I don't have access to my macros, so hopefully some of you guys can just... I can still pilot my character, just need to roll dice for me.
Okay.
No problem. Okay, so you continue down the passageway. You go beyond the shot-out mucus plug, and beyond here and there, as you go down this passageway over the next 100 feet or so, you can see small alcoves with what appear to be sort of large globular eggs with probably 8-foot squid-like creatures jetting around the inside of these eggs. So they look like giant octopus eggs.
Oh, more! Oh joy!
Do we still have communication with the ship boss?
You give it a try. There's just heavy static and interference at this point. You're too far inside the rift to make it work at this point. You're too far inside, basically a stone wall at this point.
Anyway, we could set up a booster or something like that. So, like a ping. So we ping off the booster, and then Almost like a
You're checking
satellite.
around inside the gear for the subs. Someone roll a d20 on the off chance there's enhanced communication gear stashed away in one of the subs.
You guys don't want it to be me. We know that.
Hay is checking around. It looks like if you're willing to leave the subs, one of the subs out at the entryway, and then run a cable down to one of the subs down in the passageway you're in. There's probably, it looks like there's roughly about 1,000 feet of fiber communications cable that you could basically use to basically relay a signal back to the sub, and then from that sub back to the outside. So you go ahead and set up this relay with a couple subs as repeaters along the passageway, and I need two Arcana rolls to set this up successfully.
Okay, Amina's gonna roll. One of them.
Can I aid you?
DC is 18, so.
That's not.
Can I aid her?
You want to do the other one?
Oh, you can make a roll.
Arcana 20, unnatural.
Okay, so.
There you go.
All right, Mina, do you want to spend? Well, actually, you're still short even with the bonus.
I'm still short even once. Yeah.
Can I give her help since I'm not doing anything else otherwise?
So roll a DC 20 double check of her work.
What if I could?
Okay, I'll go ahead and do it. 1 second.
Thank you.
All right, you got 5 on the roll, so I'm going to take that as a no. So, okay, so there's fundamentally a fault in the communications relay. So it looks like it works, but it doesn't actually work. So when you end up trying to use it, it actually fails. So,
can we spend some time, a little bit of time, to try to fix the fault?
no, I'm saying it. She rolled well enough to where it looks like it works. When you try it initially, it works. But by the time you actually try to use it, it will fail. So that was why it was DC 20, to try to figure out that there's actually a bug in the system.
Bug?
Yeah, and I don't think we want to just be hanging around down here in case Mom wants to surprise us. Do we want to try and capture one of these guys? Do we want to leave them totally alone? Or do we want to try and eradicate them while we're here? What do you think?
So it takes no nature check to figure out that these sort of squid creatures are nowhere near ready to hatch out. Let's put it that way. So you're probably looking at probably several days to days to weeks, essentially, before these things are mature enough to sort of pop out. Just from your general sense of biology, let's put it that way.
How unlike our timing. So we would be okay exploring further and putting that.
Yeah. So, and then if you want to haul one of these things back, you're more than welcome to do so. But they're relatively large. Each egg is like the size of a beach ball.
I think this could be valuable information. If we take what.
About how many eggs are there?
You've in just the short bit of passageway you've gone through so far, you've counted up at least 20.
Okay.
I wonder if we run into Mom, if it would be helpful as a distraction to have one of them.
Pardon me. By Mom, you mean, I assume we're hunting the giant abyssal squid right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Then we're all.
You're hunting the rift. You're hunting the rift kraken.
Yep.
So I think the eggs themselves are potentially valuable if we
could definitely
collect them later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Since they said they don't have a live one for their, or like a dead, full, intact one for their museum, they could, hypothetically speaking, raise their own.
Oh, there you go.
But
okay, so the passageway definitely continues on much further into the wall of the canyon from here. There's sonar indicates it goes on at least more than 60 feet from where you are now into the murk, and that's the ground penetrating nature of your sonar also indicates there are side passages to your sort of directly above you and directly to your right, but but it's not clear how exactly you get to these side passageways. Though there are places in the walls where it's probably thin enough to where you could just bust through the wall.
At this point, I'd prefer stealth to anything else. So if we got anybody who wants to try and be the stealthy character and sneak around looking for Mama Kraken,
Is
No,
that?
I thought I would sing the Russian national anthem. You know.
I was thinking of us cool Scarfish being like a real natural for this. What do you think?
A scarf? Do you mean scarf-ish or a scar
Gar.
fish?
Gar.
Gar.
Oh, gar. I
A
heard
long,
scar.
sinuous,
So
toothy
Asgul's
fish.
Asgul's pet.
Yes, yes,
So
I know what a
he can
gar
send
is.
his
I
giant
just-
gar out
I
to
heard scar.
swim around there and
gar.
take a look.
My apologies.
So Asgul, are you good with this plan? Do you want to send your fish out to scout?
You guys want me to do that? Sure.
I can send Adam Savage, but I think that fish may have better stealth.
Okay, no problem.
Especially
All right,
in
so
the
Asgul,
water.
do you want to use beast sense, or are you just going to have it report back?
I'm just gonna have a report back. I don't think this companion has beast sense. I don't
No,
know.
it's a spell you cast as a ranger. It's a second level spell you cast as a ranger. I.e., do you want to use a second level spell, basically, so you can see through your pet's eyes?
Now who's actually playing the Russian anthem? I thought we were going stealth.
I don't have that. I have to send them and have them report back.
Okay, you're just sending him out to report and to go out and report back. Okay, so the long toothy fish zooms out down the passageway. About 10 minutes later, zooms back. It reports there's sort of a large open room. There's numerous of these smaller blue electrified squids scooting around the room. It has animal intelligence, so it doesn't have a good grasp on numbers. So it's like 1, 2, more than 2 is its sort of counting system. So it gives you the more than 2 like more than 2.
Can it comprehend size? Is it like
It does comprehend size. They are roughly
bigger than you or smaller than you?
They're much smaller. We're talking about big for an octopus, but much smaller than an 8-foot gar.
So like snacks for a gar.
Snacks for a gar. So we're talking about like from tentacle to tentacle. You're probably looking at about like 3 to 5 feet.
Okay, yeah. So they're like
They're like big octopi. But yeah, it says there's some of those things sort of floating around in a large open passageway, and the gar thought this seems like a good thing to come back and report on before it actually has to fight anything.
Very good.
Well, it looks like yes. Can I give him? I don't know. What do they have anything that's considered a delicacy?
Skull has pet snacks that he feeds his gar, so I don't think it's a big deal.
And it just ate the head off of a giant albino shrimp, so...
Oh, that's good. So, yeah, he deserves some treats. Good boy.
So...
Alright, you feed some treats to the team fish, and it's made its report at this point, so...
I don't think investigating those smaller areas, we're looking for something that's 100 feet across.
And it would...
The room up ahead is definitely big enough for the Kraken, Rift Kraken, to fit in just sort of barely. But if it can fit down these passageways to begin with, you're sort of getting the impression, basically, it can squish... Its form is rather malleable, so it's like an octopus, so it can squish itself down to fairly narrow spaces.
I'm wondering if it could be in a room down there without squishing all of the babies, though.
Well, what if the babies are squishy too, though?
Kill the babies!
Okay.
Burn all the
So up
babies!
ahead is some sort of actually spawning area where some of these eggs have already hatched, and there's blue glowing squiddy creatures scooting around in there.
I may have missed it. Do we know for a fact, as a group, is it just a group knowledge that these squids have electric powers?
Yes,
Okay.
you already told that straight up front.
We
And you're getting the strong suspicion a lot of creatures on Hyrannus beyond a certain size have electrical powers because that's how they hunt. They basically just they're like electric eels. They scoot around, stun smaller prey, and just gobble up the stunned prey.
Yep.
Even the goo did a 1 point damage onto my sub thing when I scraped the goo sample.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything because I know I was late, like half an hour.
So, do you guys want to go down and fight some squids and see if Mom shows up, or do we want to pull out and see if any of the other caves have anything interesting?
Hey, Lawrence, I'm going to ask you this as sort of like a sort of meta question. If I cast Locate Creature, does it ping every single type of that creature regardless of age, or would that be something I need to cast to try and find out?
I think you're going to end up basically pinging off of all of its children, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was checking for. I didn't know if you were going to give that to me just as a question.
Because you're generally looking for just like a species. You're not looking for a particular individual of that species.
It's not like I'm in my Pokedex. Okay, I need to find one that's bigger than this and knows this. No, it needs to be just. Yeah, they're here. I know that much.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you want to be more have more specificity, you may want to use scrying instead, because that can look for individual people.
Yeah. And based on you suggesting scrying, I assume I'm familiar enough with this creature to scry on it.
You have the whole basically cryptozoology, like xenozoology report on this thing.
Yeah,
at this point,
so familiar enough.
Yeah.
If we really want to track this thing down, I will scry on it if we need to.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so there's a room with definitely a spawning ground for little squid creatures. So that's what's up ahead down this passageway.
What we really need is a 3rd level ranger. If we had a 3rd level ranger, that would be something.
What do you guys need me to do?
You have the ability to use primeval awareness, which will tell you if certain types of creatures are within a mile of you.
Yeah. So do you want to use that? Because you've used it before, so it's like.
Yep, I will do that.
Because you're only Asgo is only 1 level of rogue. All the rest of his levels are in range. So.
Oh, okay.
So all right. So Asgo pings, concentrates a moment, and his eyes alight with a natural green fire as this sort of wave of blue-green energy zips out down the passageway, outlining everything. And then eventually the ping returns, and he's going. Kraken is definitely in this location. I have the vague sense it's below us, so we're probably not headed exactly the right direction if we're continuing to head level with the depth we're at right now. And there's just lots and lots of sea life in these caverns. Not only the Kraken spawn, but there's some primordial elementals around, some proto elementals around here, i.e., like elder elementals, and some sort of sentient sea life. So they're either Tritons or Kuotao. I either have fish people. I wasn't able to get a really clean ping on exactly their exact species, but they're definitely sentient.
You said that some places the walls were thin enough we could probably break through. Can we break through?
So yeah, there's
below,
passageways.
Or is that just to the left and the top?
I'm saying the ground penetrating sonar at this point indicates there's a passage directly to your right and directly below your current passageway. Where if you wanted to break through, essentially, the walls are thin in some places, probably less than 6-7 inches in some locations. And a lot of this is volcanic rock, so it's just like it's porous. It can easily be punched through with a little bit of effort. Okay, so that's what you got. The spawning ground up ahead doesn't see as far. I'm assuming you don't want to just send your very expensive explosives and ground scanning radar off on its own into that room. So
no, I don't think so. We can't.
So
really
this
have
is
a
one
way
of those.
to replace
If you
that,
want to further explore this level, you're probably going to have to continue forward the direction you're going, or punch through into the other "quote unquote" secret passageways to above you or to your right.
Can I use my E-Web Gatling laser to punch a hole through the floor?
Well, that's not even required. You could probably just use your chainsaw to punch holes in the floor. Or your fist. So
okay. I will punch holes through the floor.
All right.
I punch the rock.
You stomp the floor and bash it with your armored fist until like chunks of rock begin to detach from the porous stone wall, scattering into the passageway below. You send. We'll just assume you continue to send your fish up and down to scout really quickly. The passage below you, if you head back towards the sort of wall of the rift, actually sharply skews down until it becomes a shaft heading almost vertically down. Or if you head the other way, essentially, which is sort of deeper into the canyon wall, it sort of slowly sort of turns off to your left and sort of slowly spirals off to your left for about 100 yards. So there are no eggs in this particular passageway. It seems to be just sort of like smooth bore, as if it's been tunneled out of the rock by some boring creature. You're not quite exactly sure what that boring creature is. But whatever bored this passageway definitely didn't have claws or jaws or anything along those lines, because it sort of like seems to have been smoothly cookie cuttered out of the stone, as if it like by either modern excavation energy based excavation equipment, or maybe just or some sort of creature that dissolves stone.
Boss extrude cut.
Yes.
I think going down would be the idea. I pinged down.
Okay.
Was it in any particular direction, like down?
So the
to
Kraken,
the left, or
the main Kraken,
down?
big Kraken, the Rift Kraken itself. Asgore has the vague impression that it is below you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so either head down the vertical shaft or head off to basically this sort of slightly sloping shaft that goes down at a much less steep angle, but leads away from the canyon wall. So.
I want to head in the direction of the Kraken.
Yeah, and
all right. So you head down the vertical shaft. There's the water begins to get like uncomfortably warm as you're looking at the temperature sensors on some of you guys have temperature sensors on your armor, and it's just like to people like Asgore who do not have an environmentally sealed suit, is just like, the water is no longer freaking freezing cold. That's great.
So is it pleasant now, or is it? So it's pleasant
It's gotten to the pleasant level, essentially. So Tirshan and Asgore are no longer uncomfortably cold, but it's gotten to like a balmy 80 degrees like Fahrenheit. So, but as you continue down the shaft, it becomes hotter and hotter and hotter until basically it's like it's well over like 110 at this point, and you still have not gotten to the bottom of the shaft. So and by the time it hits about 120, essentially you're beginning to question whether or not the people without environmental sealing on their armor is like having to swim back up at this point, unless you're going to put some heat resistant magic or gear on at this point in order to weather the heat.
Actually, if I remember, I don't know. I'd have to read the spell, which I can't do right now. Does control water allow me to alter the temperature of the water?
No, it does not.
No, got it.
But it does allow you to basically create just like an open air bubble if you want. So
yeah, I can do prestidigitation. Can do 1 cubic foot. So, but there's 2 of you. And
say that's nowhere near enough to essentially keep them cool.
Like I can do your head, but not the rest of you. So besides, guys, if we go further and further, and this is like a shaft, and we get trapped down here in some sort of an epic battle with very little room to maneuver, this may not be optimal. It may be better for us to go up and grab one of those spawn, take it to the ship, and decide how we want to try and lure it out a little bit. What do you think?
Agreed. Secure what victories we can. I'm not opposed to that.
So if you want to cast basically, elemental resistance, I think the 3rd level spell to start basically giving yourself fire resistance, that would not be a bad plan at this point.
Fire resistance negates heat damage, does it not? Is that how we're ruling it?
Yes, it's heat damage. You're in hot water, literally hot water. the people with environmental sealing on their armor probably can go up to probably north of 300 degrees Fahrenheit and still be good. But everybody else essentially obviously can't. They will start taking serious fire damage.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you want me to try and ask a fish how to lure this thing out?
Assuming he can resist the
fish
temperature
is already
as well.
doing the sort of dog pant underwater. It's like, Master, it's really hot.
I don't necessarily want to engage the creature down here below the rocks, away from the ship. I do want to encourage it to leave its happy little homestead. So Hate will continue down the hole, and if I encounter the thing, I'm going to try and prod it into leaving its cave. The rest of you can stay up if you want.
Do we really want to split
I'll
the party?
follow, since I have armor as well.
Do we really
Well, this is one of those things. He's just going to run down there, taunt it, and run back. So
Yeah,
I don't see this as a particularly risky maneuver. So
I'm going to cast Death Ward on Hate as a just a protective measure, and he's going to be the frontline fighter anyway.
So you scoot down the passageway. The external water temperature begins to soar at this point. You're 110, 150, 160. It's eventually reaches almost the max thermal capacity, heat soak capacity of your armor, but begins to stabilize at that point. As you come out into a large room where the whole bottom of the room is sort of this bubbling magma river that continually is basically vaporizing the seawater that's touching it, basically, and causing violent bubbling of steam. As you can see a selection of what must be primordials, i.e., elementals, scooting around the surface of the magma as they basically as you can see sort of headless torsos of magma people that sort of with no legs either. They sort of just seem to be a torso, and arms sort of float around and detach from the lava and then reattach from the lava every so often. There seems to be about 8 or 9 of them in here.
I can speak primordial, but I'm not with them, am I?
No, but you have comm gear. This distance you can basically probably set up open comms. The Hate and Ronan arrive in the room. The magma elementals seem to leave you alone for the first few moments, but then at some point they notice you, and then beady red, glowing eyes open on their faceless torsos as they begin to zoom up to you, jetting jets of steam behind them. You can see that the larger open room where the shaft opens out into, there's a passageway. Actually, there's 2 passageways out of that room. Both of them vaguely heading off at 45-degree angles back towards the rift wall. And the magma magma river sort of splits and flows into each of these tubes, and you're guessing will eventually spill out into the rift at some point.
So at this point, I would say this cave is a bust because we're definitely in the wrong area, even though it's supposed to be below us. All we've got is a bunch.
And plus, it seems like a bust because there's no way the Kraken would go through this area. It would burn itself extremely badly on magma.
So I'm gonna head right back up the tunnel.
Okay, both of you just do a quick athletics check to zoom away from the local primordial wildlife and see if they give up on chasing you. Well, apparently they don't give up on chasing you.
26.
I got a dirty 20.
Okay, well they got a natural 20. So it's just they do not give up on chasing you guys. So.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, it was a dirty 20.
Okay, so you both basically scoot up the shaft. These things are following along with you with their jet-powered trail of steam. You basically radio back to the group at this point. That's like, we have incoming. All right. So what's the call at this point? Do you just continue to jet at this point and see if you can outrun them as a team, or are you going to turn around and fight them?
I'm going to try using the E-web laser to shoot the sidewall of the cavern of the tunnel that we're going
you
up.
Just want to collapse the shaft down. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So let's see here.
And if we have comms, if you could like speaker at them, like Kraken, say something, right?
Okay. Right. So use another quarter of the charge on the E-web blaster, and I need a let's see here. All right. Well, roll me a D20 plus intelligence plus proficiency, I guess, as you're trying to figure out what's the best way to collapse the cave.
So I got a 14.
14. Okay, no problem. You managed to collapse the shaft and send large chunks of the shaft tumbling back down into the magma elementals. As they start taking damage, they sort of give up and like go back to their lair. Okay, so this way definitely seems like a bust. The other if you just go the other direction on this, the tunnel you're in, that does actually slope down gently into lower levels. If you want to try that, or alternately, you can try the spawning room, or you can break through into the other tunnel at next to the spawning room. So.
I guess we can try the other tunnel.
Does
Slopes down gently.
the school have to cast it again to get additional information about his sense, or does that stay up for 10 minutes or an hour?
The primordial awareness is a ping. It just it goes off once and it's done.
Okay.
So. Okay, you start taking the gently sloping tunnel down. This one eventually forks out like multiple times into a maze of smaller caverns. You eventually like run into another sort of a water elemental. This time it sort of has the shape of an octopus. In fact, you think it's an octopus for a moment until it sort of jets up from the wall and you can see straight through it. It seems to be hovering in the corridor, sort of like peering at you as if it's curious.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yep.
We backed out of the elemental cave.
Backed out of the lava.
We're checking out another tunnel, which has led to a water elemental and no
a maze of corridors, effectively. So just the corridors are like a labyrinth.
It doesn't look like this would be where it would be hiding either. So back up to the party.
If Crow can talk to the water elemental, maybe we can get some data. It seems curious rather than antagonistic. You want to give it a try, Crow?
If he wants to come down.
I can speak primordial, but also, is it hot here?
No, not at all. So this is like normal water temperature for...
Yep, I'll come out and play.
300 feet below the oceans, which is pretty chilly. So you head over there. The pocket warmers, essentially, you had stuck into your suit are like doing little to basically stave off the cold as you take 3 points of cold damage at this point. Because it's been probably more than 20-30 minutes away from the heated subs at this point. You arrive, the octopus-looking water elemental sort of makes blubby noises at you as it's like, "Who are you?"
We are from the surface. We have come...
I noticed that, essentially. We don't see many surface dwellers down here. It's like... The Sahojin often deal with the surface dwellers, but we do not.
We have come seeking a beast that has been harassing our establishments. A giant rift kraken. Might you know its location?
Yes, it is in the temple of the Kraken below. The Sahojin hold it in high regard.
Hmm. Is there a clear path to reach there, if you would not mind telling us?
The labyrinth is dangerous and confusing. I would not go this way if I were you. There is an easier path if you simply go to, if you wish to enter the temple of the Kraken directly. If you head straight down the rift, you cannot miss it. It is a huge opening essentially that has been built up by the Sojin.
So we can just go straight down, but will we face resistance, I assume?
I would assume you would face stiff resistance with the Sojin because they consider the Rift Kraken a holy beast.
Yes. Thank you. Is there anything we might do for you in exchange? You've been quite helpful.
I was summoned simply as a labyrinth cleaner, and that is what I do. I don't actually have any loyalty to the Sahojin. I just follow my orders.
I understand, but thank you, nonetheless. We'll do our best not to leave any trash on our way out.
Much appreciated, as it sort of like scoots down the corridor and sweeps up dust.
I want one at my house.
Remind me, what are the Suhojin again?
They're the shark men.
Do we have any
Then
allegiance?
Kuatao would be like the deep ones from what is it? From the Call of Cthulhu, effectively, or H.P. Lovecraft.
Yep.
Well, the labyrinth sounds like it would be confusing. Then there's lots of witch creatures, and then we know that there's shark men if we go down. But at least it would be wide open. We wouldn't be trapped in.
Yep, we can either go the straightforward. We can go straightforward path, or we can take the puzzle route, essentially.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't mind the puzzle route, honestly, considering that I don't really have a full access to my range of spells and combat abilities. But I'd be okay with either. I'm not extremely adverse to one or the other.
I would think that the Sojins would be easier to deal with than whatever surprise creature we'll find down here.
Well, let's put it this way: the labyrinth is essentially the puzzle trap route. So it's like versus a direct assault against the front of the temple, which is like.
Yeah, we'd be better off taking the labyrinth route than the frontal assault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you begin to scoot around the labyrinth. You see more of like artificial sea life, as it were, that are actually elementals that look like fish and crabs and octopi and sea anemones and various other things. So you see these sort of transparent versions of sea life that continue to like slowly scoot down the corridor and pick up dust and keep it clean.
And I'm going to use Mina's going to use prestidigitation to create marks on the wall so that we can trace our way back. Those will last for an hour.
You do that, and you sort of notice that like the elemental one of the elementals scoots over it and erases your mark, and then continues scooting along.
It's the fucking robot from WALL-E.
Then Mina's making a map as we go, right?
Well, this is the goofy part. You already have mapping gear, like Kirshan's headset automatically maps for you.
I've been mapping this entire place, though.
Very good.
So you have this very nice 3D map that you can basically refer to at any time, provided
I can just like snapshot what it looks like and send it to you guys.
So Kirshan is trying to make real-time backups, basically, to his Palm computer. Did you ever buy a Palm computer, Kirshan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got just like a basic one, not enough to like hack, more just like for storage.
Okay, so you've got backup storage. You're backing up everything to your Palm computer at this point from the headset. All right, so in case your headset gets destroyed, because it's a fairly fragile piece of equipment. Okay, so
I make like an autosave every like 15 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so you're scooting through the labyrinth at this point. And we're just going to do this basically as highlight locations within the labyrinth, and then various connectivity that you can go to various different locations. Okay, so you arrive in sort of this initial antechamber with what appears to be like two tridents stacked on top of each other on top of a sort of marble slab. There seem to be two ways out of this room. They're both sort of gated off by what appear to be steel bars at the moment. Nothing you probably couldn't get through with blasters and or welders, but they are sealed off at the moment. They're definitely locked up. There seems to be some mechanism you're guessing by using the tridents and the table somehow to open up the gates. And you're sort of checking the entryway into this room. You can also see small holes in the ceiling and floor where steel bars would sort of shoot up or down, essentially, to seal that entryway. The room itself is roughly about 20 by 30, and there's two tridents and a table with what appear to be like multiple holes drilled into it that seem to be just about the right size for either the pointy end or the back half of the trident.
When did we get a trident? I feel like I may have missed this part.
Saying there's two tridents stacked on top of each other in an X on top of the table.
Can I look around to see for like traps, like if there's like a poison gas that's going to be released if we mess this up?
Well, poison gas is sort of meaningless underwater. It's like you're all having to use rebreather gear anyways for the most part.
I mean, poison gas is just going to show up as bubbles.
Yeah, like darts
but there might be physical traps. It's still a good point.
Yeah. So you check the. Okay, so go ahead and get your perception check. You need DC 22 in this case.
Someone roll for me and add like plus 9, or is it plus 11? Somewhere up there.
Okay, so Tirsha notices small pointy electrodes from like in the ceiling and on the floor and at the base of the table.
Would I know
there's
if
probably something that will electrify the water if you get this puzzle wrong.
Mm-hmm. Can I try and disarm the trap with Asgul's help?
Sure.
Because if I fail, I'm already resistant to electric.
Okay, so roll with advantage, essentially. In this case, I need sleight of hand.
Well, I can't roll, so... I know my sleight of hand is like +1. I don't have that much dex.
Alright, well, Asgul probably wants to make that roll because he's probably better as a dex-based character. So, Asgul, advantage sleight of hand check.
Right, I have expertise in that. Ooh, that's not good. Wait.
Don't say that.
18.
Nice.
Okay, so there's... You don't disarm it, but you also don't manage to set it off, which is... You're feeling... it would be very freaking easy to do, unfortunately. So, you're sort of... like, you're taking out some probes and basically testing for continuity on a whole bunch of the holes that you could possibly stick the trident into. There doesn't seem to be a clean way to basically like a switch or anything to like turn off the electricity. Yeah, you do not manage to disarm the trap, but you didn't discharge it either, so you can reattempt if you want.
Do you guys want me to try again?
Wouldn't hurt.
Remind me, I have a saving face feature. Are you helping me?
Yeah, I am definitely.
Still have advantage.
Allowed to.
Do I roll with advantage?
Yes, you still roll with advantage.
That's better. So 13 plus 13 is 26.
26. Okay, no problem. You eventually figure out. Okay, like the it's like he asked for Hate's big shield, and it's just like, I'll just use this basically to short out the electrical discharge system, essentially. If the might damage your shield a bit, basically, but we won't have to worry about getting shocked in the room. So does Ronan or Hate wish to sacrifice their shield for this cause?
Hate is currently not here, I believe.
Okay.
Screw it. I'll use my shield. I'll sacrifice my shield.
All right. So
Thanks,
he
Ryan.
so Asgul wires it into like tack welds it to some of the electrodes, and all right, this should prevent basically like a clean discharge from top to ceiling to floor, and basically start setting up wire between various of the electrodes, so it'll self discharge into the wire. Okay, so I think this should prevent us from basically taking shocks if we start failing the puzzle part of this. But I still haven't figured out how to open those doors over there. So do we want to just cut our way through, or should we basically actually try to use the actual mechanism in the table?
Would Arcana help us with the mechanism in the table?
Yes, if you just want to roll Arcana or an int plus proficiency.
Or like if I have Arcana with tools, I get extra, so I'm like extra plus on that. Is that?
This isn't necessarily tools based. This is mainly like puzzle solving. So
Okay.
there's two larger holes at either end of the table where looks like you could slot in the tridents, like butt first in. It looks like the tridents would actually meet up in the middle if you tried to stick the tridents in this way. And you're looking through, you ask somebody to shine a light towards the other end, and the hole in the center of the table goes all the way through the table, and the length of the tridents are almost the length of the table. So if you stuck both tridents in, they sort of meet in the middle somehow. Whether or not that seems to be the right one, that doesn't. You're also looking for clues as to what to do here, and unfortunately, it's just the trident sort of stacked up in the middle of the room. There's on the sides of the table there are holes, 3 sets of 3 holes that are sort of stacked one above each other, essentially sort of a grid of like not 3 by 3, where you could stick the trident in and either diagonally or horizontally or vertically, and stick the points of the tridents in.
So that's what I got with my 25 Arcana?
Oh yeah, and then 25 Arcana, you eventually figure out, like, alright, there's a little bit more of a wear pattern on the side ports than the central port, basically running down the center of the thing. So you effectively have, on the sides, you have a grid that basically looks like this. And then on the opposite sides of the rectangular table, there's just like a hole, essentially, that you can slot the whole trident down. And you have 2 tridents. It looks like from examination that the holes that are sort of like diagonal in that tic-tac-toe pattern are more worn than the other holes that are horizontal. So, i.e., all the horizontal vertical X's around the edge do not seem to have as much of a wear pattern on them. So whoever uses this to open the doors normally sticks the tridents in basically at a 45-degree angle.
Do we notice anything about the actual tridents?
Looking at the tridents themselves, you're looking very carefully at the tridents. It looks like their butts actually have threading, and they can be screwed together.
Oh, okay.
So if you stick it in the table and then they meet up, you could screw them together. You're not quite sure what that does, but it does. You're guessing it could do something. And And then you're also noticing there's some sort of electrical, basically discharge arcing on the points of the trident, i.e., so it completed some sort of high voltage circuit when you stuff it in by its points. So. Which you're guessing, given the amount of basically discharge arcing on the tip points, that must be the right way of doing it. Essentially, you should see an arc if you did it right.
So there's 2 tridents, and we can tell that the diagonal grid on the side seems to be more worn. Is that happening on both sides
diagonal
of it?
grids. So left to right and right to left, essentially, both of them seem to be more worn than the top center, bottom center, center right, center left.
Okay. So, Crow, I'm resistant to lightning right now too with my infusion. Do you think that we should go ahead and try and put the 2 tridents in these 2 slots at the same time?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, you do one, I do the other?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is at the end, and you're just going to join the butts together?
I think we were going to stick the points in the grids that look like they had taken more wear.
Okay. All right, so you stuck it in. You both take 10 points of electrical damage, which you have. You stick it in one way. You still both stick them at the same angle on either side.
Yeah, I'd follow whatever tree's lead is.
Yeah, we would want to make it mirror images of each other and at the same time.
At the same time. Okay, you stuck those in. There's a loud click when that happens. On both doors leading out, and then the door behind you snaps shut. But the portcullises do not lift.
Okay.
So the door opened, but we can't get through because of the bars.
Saying they're probably unlocked. You might be able to lift them at this point. You hear a loud click. Does anybody want to go over there and check them out?
I will.
Let's not do the Russian anthem. I'm not a fan.
All right, you grab. Let's see here. So, how do you approach manipulating the bars? They're just sort of like smooth steel bars. Do you just grab them and lift, or push down, or what are you doing?
So it basically looks like a door in Legend of Zelda, right? Is there like a lip on the top or any of the edges that I could like grab?
Basically, instead of steel bars, so like a cage door.
And it might be electric. So, does anybody have mage? I have mage hand. Can I touch it with mage hand and see if it does anything funky?
Sure. You grab it with mage hand. It moves. It moves maybe about half a foot down, basically before it reaches some sort of like internal. You hear some sort of like electrical grinding, as if there's a motor on the other side that you're like is engaging gears, and your mage hand doesn't have enough force to press it down any further than that.
Okay, but it didn't look like it was electrical. Shall we try this?
I mean, again, works for me.
Okay,
can I touch it and see if it is electrified or not?
It gives you a slight tingle, essentially, for like 5 points of electrical damage, so you take 2 points of electrical damage. All right, so do you want to just give it a good grab and try to pull the mage hand? Eventually, just indicates essentially the bars actually are lowered into the ground. So you want to just give it a good yank down and see if it'll like sink down into the floor.
Yeah, you want to take one side, I'll take the other, and we'll put the mage hand in the middle and do a 1, 2, 3. We'll all do it together.
Yep.
All right, so the two of you grab various bars. You take 10 points of electrical damage apiece, which you can have, and you are able to lever the bars down. They sort of slowly begin to like tick back up into place. So there must be another step at the table to actually get the bars to lower, but it doesn't matter. You can make your way through the gap at this point. So which door do you want to go through? The door to your right or the door to your left? The ground penetrating sonar indicates doesn't give you indication one way or the other. One way is better than the other because it just sort of leads off into more corridors. Either way. though those corridors don't meet each other.
Can we tell if either of them appears to have had more traffic than the other?
No. It looks like when you open the doors, both doors open. Both portcullises open. So, and since swimming people don't leave tracks, it's it's not clear which way to head at this point. So,
okay. What do you
especially
guys...
since you have little cleaner bots, basically cleaner elemental bots running around cleaning up every footprint. So,
I want those in my house. What do you guys think, right or left?
May's theory suggests left.
okay.
We'll take the
So
Dante
you
path.
head through the Okay, so you both take the 5 points of electrical damage, which is already the half damage, and everybody trundles on through there. It's unlocked at this point, but the bars slowly just like tick back up into place once you leave them be. You head down this passageway and arrive at what appears to be a temple to the Kraken. It's obviously not the main temple. This seems to be like a sub-temple of some sort. There's sort of like weird divots in the ground where perhaps this is equivalent to pews or something where people would sit. There's about 3 rows of those. There's a large statue of a Kraken on one side of the room in blue and white marble. They're sort of clips, essentially, with robes, with blue and white robes that you assume belong to the Sahojin that are used for religious ceremonies of some sort. They're sort of like continually waft in the current in the room. The roof is made up of some sort of black-ish material that looks like the night sky and indicates the sort of far northern, sort of a far northerly looking view of the sky of Uranus with its 5 moons sort of scattered out in this sort of shotgun scattered out in this sort of weird pattern in the sky, since they have a sort of weird eccentric orbit.
So is this sort of just like for decoration, or does this look like intentional?
It looks like a temple. So it looks like a church or temple, as if you would come here to worship the Kraken. There are again more of these steel portcullis doors going out of this room. There's 2 exits out of this room as well. One that looks like both of them closed. One of them is quite large, it's like 20 feet across. That would obviously be an entryway for multiple people to enter at once. And then there's a smaller one that you're guessing may lead off to someone's like a back office or private chambers or something along those lines.
Yep.
The ground penetrating sonar indicates that the smaller passageway leads to a corridor and a couple of like alcoves and offices, and then the larger corridor leads quite a distance away. It's essentially sort of leading into a large antechamber, and then that's nothing else beyond that because that's beyond the range of the sonar. So so if you go out to the big way there, that will lead to a large antechamber, but that looks promising as it probably heads to the temple proper, as opposed to some priest's back office.
Yep.
I want to check out the priest's back office. I want to check out the priest's office.
Well, I'm saying they're both cut off basically by steel portcullises at the moment. So exactly like the doors you just went through, effectively. So they're just these steel portcullises down over the entryways at this point. So it's all locked down at the moment.
If we look around, do we see any tridents or any sort of tricking mechanisms that might raise the portcullis?
You look around. You go up to the. You head up to the statue. Let's see here. Okay, so who's heading up to the statue and looking up there? Because it looks like there's some sort of altar up by the statue.
I will.
Sort of draped over by the tentacles of the statue that might have something in it, or above it, or below it, or something along those lines. So who's doing that?
I will with Tree, since I'm okay. Also proficient in religion.
So as you approach the altar, I need both of you to make wisdom saves.
I can do that. I have my my computer finally finished updating, so I have my macros now.
Yay!
Okay, very good.
Mina got a 20.
19.
Yes, wisdom saves. DC 18.
19.
20.
Yeah. Okay, you're good.
That's a first.
I rolled a 6.
Okay, so the two of you have this sort of overwhelming urge to basically rip off your helmet and breathe in the water.
Well, wait, I thought it was a DC 18 and I got a 20.
Make your saves, and then you realize, wait a minute, that's bad. Why?
Oh, okay.
As you're like, it's like, as the euphoria of the deep basically grips you for a moment, and then you think, wait a minute, that's bad. That's bad. All right, so as you mess with the altar, you feel an alien presence in your mind urging you to rip off your rebreather, and and you pull out another set of like steel tridents, like 6 foot tall steel tridents. You're looking around the room at this point for more places where you could stick the tridents in. At this point, you've pulled out some electrical tape at this point and electrical tape up the trident so they won't conduct electricity into you anymore. As you look around for more like tic-tac-toe patterns of holes in the walls, eventually you mosey around to the back of the statue and you find basically more of these tic-tac-toe patterns there. This one is not anywhere near as clear which holes to stab it into, but if it follows the other pattern, perhaps you just sort of stab it in at a diagonal, and it'll open up something.
Shall we?
Did I look for traps first?
Go ahead and look for traps. So I need a perception check, DC 22.
Is it perception or investigation?
Either one, whichever is better for you.
Oh, that's a natural 1.
Natural 1. Looks safe to you. Looks safe.
I was going to say, could I give him the help action on that? Could I give him advantage?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Roll again.
Okay, investigation is... Where did I write that down at? 19.
19. Okay, so you still failed the check, still looks safe to you.
Nothing here, it's fine, and I'm going to go sit down on a pew.
Yeah, I'd definitely stay back, guys. So, Crow, shall we do this together?
Yes.
In this particular case, there's only one trident, and one grid at the very back of the statue of the Kraken.
Okay, if you want, I'll do this one and you do the next one. Is that cool?
That sounds fine by me.
Okay.
Okay, so you're stabbing it in with the trident points like right to left or left to right as far as the diagonals are concerned.
Whatever we did last time.
Lawrence, I feel like you're quizzing.
You hear a loud click from the bars over by the front of the temple as the bars slowly begin to lower themselves into the ground.
I will be right back. I'm going to log into my laptop instead of my Xbox.
Okay.
Okay, so that is what happens.
Yay.
How many pews is there?
So there's 3 rows, probably at each. So there's basically 3 rows and probably enough seating for maybe about 12 people.
Oh, wow, 12. That's close.
So it's a small temple. Let's put it that way.
It's a small temple and it's a small statue, but I still felt an alien presence in my mind here. So I think there
Yes.
is a lot of power down here. And when we get into the main temple, remember what happened to us at Hades? So, Uzgul, let's just be careful.
All right now, how many bars are for the that got lowered?
I'm saying the whole thing lowers into the ground. So the
Okay.
20-foot wide portcullis lowers itself into the ground, and now that way is open.
All right, but there wasn't 13 bars in there, was there?
There's a bar every 6 inches, so it's too narrow to squeeze through, except for your fish maybe. But the rest of you essentially could not squeeze through the bars. Let's put it that way.
I thought he gave you
Maybe if you're a halfling or a gnome, you might be able to squeeze through there. But as a human, no.
Didn't Crow give you restoration? Do we still have that thing with 13?
Oh, as far as Asgul, yes, I believe Greater Restoration was cast on Asgul already.
Yeah, so I think you're okay now, buddy. But we're gonna head into another temple, and bad things happened at Hades Center. So let's be careful.
Oh, thank you about reminding me about the insanity I don't have.
Right, you don't have it. Yay! But let's not. Let's capitalize on that, right?
Asgul is still obsessed with the number 13, even though he doesn't fear it anymore.
Just from habit, yeah. Okay.
Just from habit. All right, so the bar's lowered down into another section of the temple at this point. As you are sort of fiddling around in here, there's in the antechamber that opens up. As the bars go down, the lighting in the antechamber lights, and there's this very surprised-looking shark man. Well, actually, 3 of them, basically, that happen to be wandering through the antechamber at the moment. As let's see, they see some of you over in the temple, and you see them, and then what are you doing?
Does anybody speak Shark Man language?
I speak Abyssal and Primordial.
I think you need to speak Aquan is the actual underwater common language. So
yeah, I speak Orin, which is the air one, but I also speak Primordial, which I took as part of my background. So I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, Primordial is the language of general elementals. Aquan is the language of Tritons, mermaids, and Sahojin and Koatau.
So Hate will just wave cordially to them.
All right. Roll persuasion. Well, actually, I guess roll diplomacy.
We don't have diplomacy in this game.
Okay, never mind. Then it
More's the pity, because we could use some.
Yeah, so it is either going to be deception or persuasion. Either one's fine.
And I can't help so much
16.
with this one.
16. Okay.
Do you want me to try and...
They make this horrible, whale keening noise that is I don't think that's basically friendly. I don't think... Ow, that hurts my ears.
Hey, as
2 of them start running away, and the third one basically starts waving his arms in mystic gestures, which looks more like rhythmic, synchronized swimming underwater.
All right, I'm gonna cast Shield of Faith.
Okay, so everybody, give me initiative at this point. Nobody's surprised by what's going on at this point, but you are definitely in an encounter at this point.
All right. That is a 21 for me now. Wow, what a concept.
These guys suck at initiatives. You guys go first. We'll just run down from bottom to top. Tree, what are you doing?
I'm gonna cast Fairy Fire on them.
Okay. You manage to catch all three of them before they jet. Let's see here. Let's see. Well, never mind. Two of them resist, and one of them basically gets lit up. One of the ones that is running away is lit up. Okay, Ronan. And do you close on them, or do you basically stay inside the sub-temple? That's a question for you, Trey.
I think we need to go after them because I think they're going to go find a whole bunch of them. So I think I need to go after them and close.
Okay, so you're closing in on them basically as your move action. Great.
Yeah,
okay.
And I've got telekinetic shove. Can I slam one of them into a wall, like whoever's in front?
Okay, you try to knock one over. You knock him over ass over tea kettle. So he basically loses momentum as he tries to swim away. Okay, Ronan, what are you doing?
I'm going to close on the nearest one and then slash the bits.
Okay. They're not quite within melee range unless you basically unless you wish to dash up to them essentially and at least try to cut them off from getting around you. So that's the options, but there isn't quite. You don't quite have enough movement to get all the way over there, basically, and attack them.
So I'll try to cut them off then.
All right, athletics check to basically cut them off. So DC 16,
22.
Okay, no problem. You zoom and cut off one of the two exits to the room that they are in. So it's a relatively large chamber, like a 40 by 40 antechamber. There's a statue of this very strange looking, like half lobster, half woman in the center of the room, and what you're guessing amounts to benches, though it's more like a spot you can grab onto to keep yourself from floating away rather than an actual bench. Okay, you cut off one of the exits out of that room. Tirshan.
Is he back from rebooting his computer?
But no. We'll come back to Tirshan after Hate.
Charge into the fray and try to reach somebody. And since I can't do that, I'm going to...
You want to cut off the other exit to the room?
Yep, cut off the other exit.
Athletics check. Okay, what DC did I give that for Ronan?
16.
16. Okay, yes, the same 16.
23.
Okay, no problem. You cut off the other exit to the room. Okay. Let's see here. And then Asgul.
I am going to fire at the one that's making weird gestures in the air twice with my plasma pistol. What do I have to hit? 24 and 21. You hit?
Okay, you hit him twice. So give me, what is it? 2d10 plus your dex bonus twice.
I thought it was D8 damage.
Then the 2d8 then.
Okay. So 12, 10, and
so I'm
6.
wondering, did you actually pick up the marine plasma pistol, or do you just happen to have a blaster? Is what I'm trying, because the blasters do an D8, and the marine plasma pistols do a D10.
I got 2 pistols and a marine blaster, but the marine blaster has blown up twice on me, so I'm not using it.
Okay, so you're using a normal blaster. Okay, so it doesn't.
Yeah. So 16 damage with the 2 shots.
Okay, you blast the caster. He manages to keep his spell going.
I am going to have my fishy attack one of them that is running away.
Okay.
21 to hit. What's my damage on that? 10 damage in DC 14.
Okay, your fish tries to clamp down on this thing's leg, and it unfortunately it slips your giant gar's grasp and continues to swim away. But you do your damage, so I got your damage. Okay, and then Tirshan.
Do these things have legs, and do they have
Yes,
gills?
so they are fishmen with legs and arms.
Okay.
Well, they're shark men with legs and arms. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think I'm just gonna cast Control Water and try and make us an air bubble because we breathe air and they don't.
Okay.
Let's assume they don't breathe air.
All right, you pretty much empty out the room they're in of water, and they sort of make gasping noises as they flop to the floor because they no longer have the speed advantage on you anymore because they're really good in the water. They do not move around on land super fast. Okay, so let's see the Sahojin Acolyte.
Oh, Godzilla.
Sorry.
Okay, so I need wisdom saves from let's go with Hate and Ronin. You cannot basically get advantage. You can't. Only Hate can take advantage of his protection over. You're slightly too far away for Ronin since you're on opposite sides of the room. So,
14.
All right, you are paralyzed as you freeze up.
Is 15 enough, or do I need to use a luck?
You're going to need to use a luck. It's
I used an inspiration, so I think
it would be a good plan.
Yeah, we all got one inspiration last session. So
for the
everybody
love
has
of God.
one.
Okay, I failed.
Okay, so both of you freeze up as you feel like ethereal coils of a kraken sort of wrap around your limbs and hold you immobile. As the fishermen sort of limp their way past you, as one of them basically who had an injured leg limps his way past you, and the other one basically got knocked over, gets back up, and basically limps past the paralyzed Ronin at this point. And then the priest himself takes a direction and starts running that direction as well. So they're pretty much at the door at this point. Mina. So they have partial cover at this point.
Okay, and they're in different directions?
Yes, so two of them going one direction and one of them is going Ronin's direction.
Okay. And the priest is the one that would look like he was trying to spellcast? Is that right?
Priest cast Hold Person and got Ronin and
okay.
8.
And which one has the fairy fire on him?
The one that's heading Ronin's direction.
Okay. I think I'll hit him with my lightning thing and see what that does.
Roll it twice.
Okay. 27 on the first one. 10 on the second one. So that's probably one hit.
That is one hit, yes.
And then that's 7 plus I get my extra one, so that's 12 damage. And then can I telekinetically shove him again into the wall?
All right, you try to shove him back into the room. Let's go for that. Okay, you do not manage to shove him. He basically he is around the corner at this point, though you do clip him as he's getting around the corner. Ronin. Oh, never mind. He gets when it's his turn. He gets all the way around the corner.
Oh, okay.
Right now, he just has partial cover. Okay. Ronin, save at the end of your round. Wisdom save. DC 17.
19.
All right, you unparalyze at the end of the round, but the guy that you were trying to block off has already gone past you. Tirshan.
The guy who's spellcast, can I control water and is he still underwater or did I expose him?
Well, he's in the air at the moment, so.
And he's still casting? All right, I'm
well, it's just like you casting underwater without water breathing. Essentially, you can probably get 1 or 2 spells off. Okay, hey, we'll come back to Tear Shot. End of round save.
Nope.
Nope. Okay, still stuck. Are you adding your aura protection into that?
Yep. I got a +10. That's 12.
Oh, never mind. I got that reversed. I thought your roll was 10. Okay, right. Okay, let's see here. Are you... Oh, yeah, you're not quite high enough level to have magic resistance yet. Okay,
I do have magic resistance.
Okay, so don't you have advantage on magic saves?
No, it's damage from magic spells.
That's damage from magic spells. Okay, that makes sense. All right. All right, Asgul.
Does Asgul recognize that Hate is paralyzed?
Yes, you recognize that Ronan and Hate are both paralyzed at the moment.
Well, I'm not paralyzed.
Ronan is coming out of it, but Hate is definitely still frozen up.
Can I reach Hate by a walk over to him?
Let's put it this way: there's no aid action you can do to get rid of paralyzed faster, so you probably should just continue to attack whoever you're attacking.
Well, I was going to cast Lesser Restoration at second level.
Oh, never mind. Okay, well, yeah, sure, you can do that. You are no longer paralyzed, Hate.
And then I will... Can my fish reach anything? He's got a speed of 5 feet right now. Because he is on land.
No, you cannot reach anything at the moment. He's
Sorry about that.
He's just flopping around a little bit.
Yes, he's flopping around a little bit, like Magikarp. Right.
Oh, no.
John, what are you doing?
And then I will try and move into cover.
Well, there's no thing to take cover from. You probably should just be chasing down the fishman right now.
Okay, I will go chase something down.
Oh, okay,
also,
well,
on my last turn,
check to see if you can intercept one of the fishermen at the before they jet out of the room.
All right, so yeah, that'll be my action.
Okay.
And
all right, Tirshan, what are you doing?
These guys are wet, right?
They are definitely wet. I'll give them disadvantage if you want to basically throw any electricity at their way. That requires saves.
That was very quiet lightning.
Okay.
Ryan.
You guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, now we can hear you.
I got an 18 and a 29 to hit them.
Okay, you hit them. They have a whopping 14 AC. So.
Oh, easy. The one who's casting, I'd 13. Actually, no. Round that to 17 damage.
Right. In a practical sense, you probably want to hit one of the damaged ones because the casting guy hasn't even been touched yet. So,
all right,
because you're trying to keep these guys from escaping, because they are running away from you, trying to get other temple people involved.
Yeah, then I'll hit one of the damaged ones. Why not?
Okay, so you hit one of the other damaged ones. You electrocute him very badly, and he falls to the ground with a satisfying sizzling sound. Okay, so there's one going either direction at this point. So, all right. So they basically managed to exit the room at this point and get back into water and start making good progress again. So they are just running at this point. And we're back to Tree.
Okay.
So you're in the atrium room at this point. You can chase after either side. Which one do you want to do?
Whichever one looks like he was.
The one that is more damage is the non-spellcaster that went out towards Ronan's side of the room.
Okay, so why don't I do that? Why don't I chase after him and I can cast Thunder Wave on him? So that's a 15-foot cube.
Okay, so just give me athletics to chase after him.
Oh, well, that was a 6. I think I tripped.
Right? Do you want to use any inspiration on this, or
yes, I think I should.
are you satisfied with that roll?
I should. No, definitely not. That was like what I did in real life. Okay, so that's a 16. Is that enough?
Okay, now so Mina catches up to this wounded fishman at this point, as there's a little purple blood in the water. And what are you doing? Thunderwave?
Yeah, I think I want to do Thunderwave because I can give him damage and also push him. Because I can push him 10 feet back, right? So
you slam it. He completely fails his save as you catch up to him and Thunderwave him into a wall. Okay.
So that is 23 damage.
Okay. He makes a sort of like sickening cracking noise as his neck breaks as he smashes face first into the wall. Okay, so Ronan.
And am I
you
within
are not
30
paralyzed.
Feet of the other one?
You're on the opposite side of the room, but not at all. So, because the room's 40 feet across. So.
Okay, just checking.
So the other one went the other direction, literally, so you're probably like 60, 70 feet away from that other guy. Okay, Ronan, athletics check to go chase after the other guy, the other fish, the temple priest that basically ran the other way.
Dirty
you
20.
Use your repulsor boots and zoom across the remaining distance. Go ahead and spend a Misty Step, essentially, to Misty Step all the way to him at this point. So you're at him at this point.
And I'm going to say hello. And I'm going to use a charge of the 9 Lives Stealer on him.
Well, you need to roll 20 to hit first, so roll to hit first.
Natural 20.
So you've got 2 attacks.
Well, 2 attacks. So natural 20. Oh, and natural 1.
Okay, well, all right. You expand the charge of the 9 Lives Stealer, and he basically his whole all his scales turn gray, his eyes sink into his head, and he is slain as you destroy his soul. Right. So So the temple priests and the acolytes don't manage to get away. You're sort of standing there and listening at this point and trying to figure out if anybody's coming or anybody heard any commotion, but there doesn't seem to be anybody forthcoming at the moment. So there's 2 exits out of this antechamber area. One of them leads to what appears to be an open courtyard. You can see some more acolytes scooting around there. I'm assuming you're doing this stealthily, so you send some stealthy person to go look around the corner first, and then going back the other direction. It sort of looks like it's heading back into storage or an annex or dorms area that seems to be mostly deserted at the moment. So there's like very few sparse number of Sahojin back there, but the courtyard seems to be chock full of Sahojin. We're talking about at least like 20. But that also seems to be like the populated part of the temple, which basically would indicate it. That's the active part of the temple, where basically the main temple is at, where maybe the Kraken's at. So there's a sub-dormitory area that is just like almost completely deserted. There's like a handful of Sahojin acolytes in there, maybe like 2 or 3 max, according to, let's say, Adam Savage, who went to scout them.
Would those disguise things that we got on the cruise ship make us look like we were Sahojin?
Sure.
Any of us?
Absolutely. Sahojin are roughly human size.
Okay, so we have 3 of those. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so does anybody else have any illusions that could anybody be invisible or have illusions or something that we could maybe just kind of ooze through there?
I can disguise myself.
Asgore specifically bought separate gear, so you technically can cover 4 total people.
Okay.
So Asgore bought basically morph gear himself.
Okay.
And I think anybody except for Hate can take the assassin metamorpho drug, essentially to appear as pretty much as anybody else, literally down to the biological level. So if you literally want to be a fishman, you essentially can use the metamorpho drug from the Imperial Assassins.
Are the acolytes that are stirring around, are they wearing robes, or are they like?
Yes, they are wearing robes. The guys you killed, their robes are kind of ruined. There are significant amounts of their own blood all over them at this point. So that there were some robes in the sub temple if you wanted to grab some robes.
Yeah, I'm thinking let's grab some robes in the sub temple, and maybe we won't have to use the drug. Maybe we can use the robes and the disguise kit to look close
Okay,
enough
so So you can cover everybody of your team if someone takes the metamorphosis drug. So
okay, and so
hey,
Hate can't take that, right? But
Hate as a robot cannot take the metamorpho drug.
Okay,
no.
But he could use the disguise thing. So I'll go ahead and take the metamorpho, guys, if you need that.
So you have natural water breathing and swimming 50 at this point.
Okay.
Because you are a Sahojin for all intents and purposes as your race right now. Okay, so are you just gonna go through the open area with a lot of Sahojin milling about in the hopes to get to the main temple and get some more information fast, or are you gonna go through the annex / dormitory area, which is mostly deserted, with only about 2 or 3 Sahojin?
We don't want to be asked any questions.
Okay, it's sounding like the annex area then. Okay, you head into the annex area. You're sort of poking around back here. The acolytes back here pay you no mind. They seem to be busy in study at the moment. The 3 of them are sort of clumped up around a table and have multiple what appears to be waterproof scrolls or like reading material that they've sort of like weighted down to the table with lead weights or like metal weights. And then they seem to be having a heated discussion about something or other. As you head over to the dormitories and poke around in, there's sort of like simple cots here or bunks with sort of a steamer trunk at their foot. All of them are almost completely identical. Some of them you can see like photographs of family and friends or girlfriends like stuck up to the wall. It's like welcome to the abyss. Wish you were here. As it basically is like this like dark abyss of like the ocean with some pretty coral in the background. There's lots of pamphlets and sort of literature of the church in here. It's like Bibles and psalm books and holy paraphernalia like religious symbols, which appears to be this sort of like beaded kraken, essentially, where the tentacles sort of wave in the water as you wear it around your neck. So that must be the holy symbol of the church. And let's see. Other than that, there are some waterproof palm computers that seem to be on charging docks that people have left to charge. And they're at really low charge state. They're like 2 or 3% charge. And people have sort of left them there to charge.
Okay, so none of them have charged up yet. They're all at 2 or 3%.
Yes, but they're on the charge dock. You could basically try to access them still, and they probably would work.
Yeah, while they're in the dock, I'd like to check and see if we can find any sort of a map or any sort of information about where we are. And then I probably do want to pocket one because I can always charge it up later, and who knows what's on it, right?
Okay. So, you, okay, so I need an Arcana roll, DC 16 to break the security. The minimal, minimal pin or, thumbprint, fish print security, essentially.
Well, that's a 13, but I'll put 5 on it, so that's 18.
Okay, no problem. All right, you hack somebody's personal palm top. The information. A lot of it is just like incredibly innocuous stuff, like schedule of. So this is apparently like a seminary where people go to study to become priests and nuns. So there's just like class schedules, class notes. There's lots of religious texts with lots of bits highlighted. But no one actually speaks Aquan, unfortunately. So it's all in a foreign language, unfortunately. So,
but there's no, we can't find any maps or anything. I'm thinking because like if it's a school, there's got to be something that shows where the classrooms are.
There is like a very limited map that pretty much shows the sort of outer temple area, a commons area, which you were guessing is that courtyard you saw earlier with like all sorts of people. So that's like the center, sort of center courtyard for the campus. There's numerous classrooms that are indicated by numbered and labeled classrooms around the center courtyard. The main temple is actually at the far end of the of the courtyard / green belt / concourse, and it's sort of flanked on either side by a university library and an administrative building. Note this is all underground, so these are not actual separate buildings. These are sort of just carved out locations with rooms in the underground. It's sort of drawn in a very sort of like stylized style, so it's obviously not to scale. Let's put it that way.
But
it's one of those sort of cartoony campus maps that it's just like, so long as you can locate landmarks, you can generally find where you're going.
Okay, but maybe if we put that together with the information that Ronan and Askel has.
This annex area, this annex area essentially does actually lead out to the outer abyss area itself. It indicates that there's regular busing to the town next door. You're getting to realize the Sahosian must be actually a native species to this place. And that the people basically that stay in the touristy areas just have never really explored the Rift at all, because it's sort of considered a dangerous and wild frontier when it's not actually anything of the sort. Let's see here. Okay, so there's some sort of like transport to a town essentially nearby. Taking the minibus sub essentially.
It's like Bikini Bottom, right? It's like SpongeBob is down here, and oh man,
yes,
I'm beginning to feel like a school shooter. You know, I mean, like, okay.
Can I pocket one of these things too?
Yeah, so there's this waterproof like iPads around here. They obviously belong to a student. Whether or not you actually feel bad about that or not, it's just like up to your character, obviously.
Crow, do you have comprehend languages?
No.
Okay, I don't either.
Okay, so you've got a sort of like cartoony map of a seminary at this point. The main temple is this way, and then it looks like there's what amounts to underground passageways that you're. Now, once you explore the dorm / annex a little bit, you realize there's underground passageways that lead, that are some sort of like AC and HVAC support tunnels that lead underneath the campus as you head over to a door that's clearly marked as for either emergency use only or leading to maintenance. That's locked. It's a trivial lock to get open. You head that down there using a stairwell, a very sort of steep stairwell, and because like it probably doesn't matter because you can swim. Having a stairwell doesn't matter in watery environments, so you just sort of swim down there, take a look around, and It looks like these sort of like Jeffrey's tube type of tunnels lead all over the place underneath the campus.
Are they big enough for height?
They're certainly big enough for hate. It looks like maintenance equipment. You could fit heavy maintenance equipment down here, like a golf cart size sort of transport, hover transport, or repulsor transport. Okay, and then other things. There's the school mascot, Squiddy, which is basically looks like a blue Kraken, and
but a cute blue Kraken, right?
yeah, cute Rift Kraken, yes. But the thing that interests you the most by the time you get into these underground sort of support tunnels is that there's what is it? There's various tubes that are obviously not meant for HVAC that all are labeled with this big blue squid, and they all seem to point in the same direction. You can roll an intelligence, like an insight check to figure out what that's for.
Okay. Crow, you want to...
20. Okay. Unnatural.
You sort of figured it's like, hey, wait a minute. They might actually keep... If this is, they actually have the Rift Kraken as a mascot, they might actually have it penned up somewhere.
Yeah, let's God as a mascot.
Yeah, we're like the rival school coming after the mascot. Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm not... Hate is not feeling the desire to continue this any further. He's more along the lines
this is a little...
going back and reporting to the sea captain that there's an entire civilization down here that is studying and worshiping the Kraken, and if we were to kill the Kraken, it would pretty much throw their entire civilization in confusion, and it could cause even more problems. So maybe this is not the right way to go.
Could definitely spark a race war, right?
Yep. I'm
with you on that.
And he doesn't really feel like killing a bunch of college kids.
Yeah.
I am a college kid. I would not like this.
Okay. All right. You head back out the way you came. You gather up your you gather up all the dead people, the corpses, and stuff them into dimensional storage. Just like, yeah, well, we don't want to have a murder mystery on our hands here. We're just going to clean up.
And then we'll have proof that they're down there, right? So.
Yeah. You use prestidigitation to clean up the blood and head on out. Okay, you head back out the way you came. You head back up to Drogo. It's like, well, did you find anything?
Oh yeah, we found lots. We found a cavern full of Kraken eggs. We found a underwater civilization of these guys, and we'll pull them out of the dimensional storage.
And we brought one of the eggs back, right, on our way through, because we talked about doing that.
Yeah. You have one of the eggs. It's like, to your chagrin, basically manages to shock you on the regular as someone in your group has taken an extra 10 points of electrical damage.
I'll be the one handling it. I have high nature and high medicine.
Okay, so you take 5 electrical damage as you eventually load it into the back of your sub. You're not quite sure, basically, whether or not it's a good idea to put live entities into dimensional storage or not. You haven't tried it yourself, and you probably think it's a bad idea.
So we'll explain exactly what we ran into down there and our misgivings as to pursuing this any further without some kind of guidance.
Really? Interesting. Well, I'll phone this back to the underboss at this point. Let her decide what to do.
Yeah, we didn't want to be the ones that started it.
We had assumed the Sahojin had the natives weren't quite this advanced. We always see them just, like, dressed in kelp and with steel tridents, and, you know, we thought that maybe they were, you know, a little bit more advanced. But, you know, we didn't know that they were, you know, this advanced. We had assumed the Sahojin had the natives were weren't quite this advanced. We always see them just, like, dressed in kelp and with steel tridents, and, they never seem to be a more advanced than that. So
no, apparently there's
interesting. They are.
buses and there's a seminary and they're studying. And we didn't want to go down and spark a race war because if we destroy their prime deity, I think, they would need to come back up and figure out what happened.
Okay,
So didn't seem
okay.
like
He
the thing
phones
to
the
do.
underboss, and then he says, "The underboss says, all right, well, if there's more people down there, we can always use more customers. So we generally deal with only the tourists around here and the local wildlife." As she's sort of like indicating the scum and villainous of Uranus. It's like it might be nice actually to do trade with the natives. So new mission. If you can set up trade relations with the Sahojan, we'd really appreciate that.
Well, none of us speak the language, so that's a huge.
Well, if that's if that's not doable, here we'll definitely want to pay you for time and effort. Then can't pay you for the basically head of the Kraken, obviously, but I'll 750 credits sound for each of you.
More than fair.
That'll work.
Totally. And I think that if you get someone to go and negotiate with them, they can probably make sure the Kraken isn't coming up rampantly and taking out miners. It can go somewhere else.
That's a much better. That's much better, basically, than losing like 24 men trying to take down a Kraken. So we'll pursue that angle. We definitely have several people that speak Aquan, so hopefully the locals don't have too much of a different dialect than us. So Drogos goes. So any pretty short goals down there?
We really didn't spend a lot of time checking them out.
We did confirm that it was a place for priests and nuns, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find what you're looking for given enough time.
Oh yeah, there were elementals too, right? So.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, essentially, so tell you what, I'll so in addition to he's willing to buy the Kraken egg off of you for an additional 200 for each of you, essentially, so 800 creds. So, well, I guess it's 1,000 creds if you include Ronin in there. So
yeah, we usually give him a cut, right?
Yep. Okay, other than that, let's see here. I think the major thing...
Do I want to show him the computer that I took from down there? Because someone...
Well, you can basically, if you want to run it through the Imperial net, you can have it translated, because you have an Imperial node. You just need to make the appropriate, Arcana rolls in order to have that happen. So.
Okay.
And now that you have clean identities that don't have any criminal records on them, you'll have an easier time doing that. Okay, so DC 13 to have the journal / class notes translated.
And that's a 16.
Okay, no problem. All right. So you have this basically class notes for one Spinderina, Velis, a resident from a small town fishing colony, and she's just all pleased as punch that she's made it to college and she's learning basically the ethics and morality, and there's public speaking and some communications courses. So she's looking like she has a public relations sort of or communications degree that she's working on at the religious college.
So would they
Other
be
than that,
interested?
you get references to lots of other locations on Uranus
Okay.
that belong to the Sahojin.
Are any of them near the place where we need to go to check out crow stuff?
There is one essentially. Well, never mind. You sort of get to sort of like a tour of the major cities and towns that are relatively close to the Temple of the Kraken, i.e., the College of the Kraken. So, it looks like their whole civilization is probably like built inside these like deep Marianas Trench type rifts, because the Sahojin themselves are like very sensitive to light, apparently.
So would they be interested in buying the information on this computer to take into their negotiations with them?
Well, I would say you probably should just offer it up as part of your 750 pay. Otherwise,
Okay.
so it's like, because that will basically probably get you more work from the underboss if that's what you're interested in.
Okay. So I believe
Other
I'll
thing
go ahead
is
and
just
I'll
like,
copy. I think I'll keep the original in case technically
okay,
there's something interesting about it, but I'll copy the information and we'll give that to the underboss gratis.
okay, fair enough. All right,
Can
so
I
you
give?
just give the information to the underboss. She's very appreciative of you taking the time, essentially, to gather up some more intel on the Sahojin and the. All right, well, we're going to send a delegation to the Sahojin probably in about a month or so. We're going to have to do some prep here and gather to the right cultural specialists. So, if you're willing, if you're interested, we can always use high-end mercenary security on these details, since. I'm assuming basically we've inadvertently done a lot of bad things, basically, to soldiers, and they're more advanced than we think, and they've sort of let it slide. So, in favor of basically not making contact with us. So, this may or may not be a very somewhat difficult mission, but if you individuals are interested, we would be willing to hire you on for 1,500 credits apiece. So. Other than that, I understand from my contacts that you have a tour of the Eye of the Storm set up, and a meeting with the chaplain. So I wouldn't keep that man waiting. He's very, shall we say, temperamental about basically being punctual. So, and with that, essentially, we'll end this evening, and the next immediate session will be the Eye of the Storm.
Ooh.
Now, I just wanted to come back to some of the things that were going on in chat on the middle. So, who has Asgul's sister as a slave? Is that the underboss's syndicate, or is it?
Oh well, this was for backstory. I was thinking I came from a tribe of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the outer rim or the mid rim, and I wanted to buy her out of that.
So it isn't necessarily related to this particular planet. It's just
so
we need to
let's put it
the
this way.
money
I'm saying from a practical standpoint, all the criminal organizations on the rim are associated with each other. So talking to one underboss versus another underboss is a good way of getting the leverage or the clout in order to buy out a slave contract.
Okay.
So you could do it with the Naga underboss here. You could be talking to Omicron Ceti 6's underboss, who you've already done business with. So, any of them would be reasonable. Asgul himself doesn't necessarily know what planet his sister is on at all at this point, so he needs to get that information to begin with.
Okay. So we do have an idea that Crow's aunt was here on this planet trying to get into Eye of the Storm.
Crow's aunt is either imprisoned or dead at this point, because she didn't make it out of that tower.
Which I've come to terms with.
Okay, so next session will be basically Eye of the Storm. You you set an appointment up basically to meet the chaplain of the Space Wolves chapter here at the Eye of the Storm, and we'll pick it up from there.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was an amazing session.
All right, cool.
Yeah, this was pretty good, Lawrence.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting stuff.
I liked it. Askell might not have, but I liked it.
And I'm glad that we didn't turn out to be the college shooters for at least more than 3 of them. That was sort of... Yeah. When ethics interfere. You kids have a great week. I'll see you next time.
All right, see everybody next week.
Good night, guys.
Night.